every casino came up with their own version of this. And, they just had no idea what they were doing.
I have to say, like the example that you just gave, it's really stupid.
Yes. Yes.
You're listening to Behind the Lines, a podcast presented by In Play Live and powered by Pinnacle, the #1 sportsbook where winners play and never get limited. Go to pinnacle.com/InPlayLive to sign up and get in the game.
Welcome in, it's Behind the Lines, powered by Pinnacle, purifying the sports betting industry. I'm Shane, he's Pace, and coming up in just a few moments, the gambling wizard, Richard Munchkin, joins us in just a moment. But before we get to him, Pace, what a madness weekend it was. Since we last talked, we were talking about everything to come with the NCAA March Madness tournament. You gave out a ton of great advice on how to bet the tournament. How did the weekend go for you? The Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday run?
Well, I think anyone that's been a lot of our viewers are obviously members of In Play Live. We had ups and downs. I think the advice that we went through on this podcast, I don't know if there's anything that was more peering into the future than talking about Clemson when they're down and the opportunity that exists, and Michigan in the clutch. Like, I don't know if anything has ever come more true than the words that I said about those two teams.
That was some real crystal ball shit going on right there.
Yeah, that was crazy. We had a tremendous week. I think we were up 10 units heading into Sunday, and then Sunday our tracker took a nasty hit. We lost 3 units. And it was one of those days that separately of March Madness, it really didn't matter all that much. There was bad puck luck. Tampa scoring a goal and with 1 second left that lost a wager for us. And that was a metaphor of the day itself. Tremendous week. March Madness has been incredible. Just a couple bad bounces on Sunday.
I had a fantastic Thursday, Friday, awesome days. Saturday, a little bit tougher, still turned to positive ROI, and Sunday was a negative ROI day for me. Is there anything that you're seeing in terms of perhaps trends or things that maybe aren't playing out the way we thought it would, or stuff that is holding true?
100%. Okay, so, geez, that's a loaded question. I would say that the first thing that has been maybe a little bit of a surprise is, traditionally speaking, with playoff sports across the board, you have very predictable coaching tendencies. So an example of that would be in the NFL, the team that is up big, running the football and being respectful to their opponent. In the NBA, the team that is up 15 late, the game is over. Yeah, the losing team might be pushing a little bit, but they're good teams that know how to shorten the game. And in order to shorten the game in both the two sports I just mentioned, in football, you run the ball, you keep that clock running. In basketball, you make sure you use the whole shot clock. You still should be moving the ball around to make sure you get a good look at the end of the shot clock. But man, these blowout games, that Thursday was a lot of tight games. These blowout games that started coming in the day 2 of the round of 64, they were like practices or scrimmages for a lot of these teams. Thankfully, we saw it and didn't get burned too bad. But my God, in situations where you might think like this is a no-brainer under opportunity, it really wasn't. These teams were scoring like crazy regardless of the differentials. In fact, the under opportunities seem to come a little bit better in tighter games, but in general, unders and Friday, Saturday, Sunday didn't fit the bill. We were down on our unders on the week, so we kind of abandoned that a little bit. Now, the obvious thing that you could say is just don't bet unders for the rest of the tournament now, but I really don't think that's going to hold true. I think that as the games do get more competitive, there's going to be circumstances where it totally makes sense to pull the trigger on some of those still. Especially team-dependent stuff, some of the stuff that Ryan showed us with the trapezoid of excellence, isolating a few of those slower playing teams. Not that there's a whole bunch of them left. But I'd say that would be the biggest surprise, or I was just kind of looking at it, watching it go in. Yeah, took a lick on a few of them. where I'm like, geez, they're still not really slowing down. And if they are, they're still scoring pretty easily. So yeah, it felt like a practice out there a lot of times, but that would be the surprise on my side.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it there. Where key to zone in on the team and their tendencies and what the way they've played, the style that they've played over the course of the season, and seeing them continue to keep that going. I'm thinking about the Kentucky game from yesterday. That was a blowout game, and they just kept pushing the pace, and both sides just kept scoring. And I'm hoping that we can bank on that from Kentucky in the next round as well. What adjustments might you make going forward, if any?
The first thing from an adjustment standpoint, specifically relating to this conversation, I think I already made, and that was actually just letting some of those games go by when it can be really hard to do as a sports bettor. So we always talk about the difference between the theory of something and then the actual execution. So it's like, oh, just pass. There's another game coming in an hour, or there's another game coming in 15 minutes, whatever the case may be. We're into the Sweet 16 here. There's not a lot of games left, so you can, and they're not coming through at the same volume. Certainly not at the same volume as they were in the regular season or in the conference tournament week. So it can be slow, and you almost feel like, oh my God, it's March Madness. There's definitely an opportunity here. If it's not an under, then it's got to be an over, right? So they don't like the under, we'll take the over, right? No, it's like the biggest adjustment is just picking your spots. It's the most obvious advice ever, but it all comes down to the execution, and it can be really challenging to pass on games sometimes. And that isn't specific to March Madness either. So passing on the ones that you don't have a good read on, passing on the ones where you don't have good notes on the team based on how they've played in previous games, and waiting for the next opportunity where you do have those things that you need.
Yeah. Just sort of doing the math in my head here as we record this, it's Monday. We're heading into the Sweet 16. So that's 8 games, Elite 8, 4 games. So, there's 12. Then we've got 2 games and then 1 game, so we've only got, just over a dozen games, 15 games left, 16 games left, something like that, right? There really isn't that much more madness ahead of us. Maybe it's time to start thinking about the professional court and the NBA and how we sort of attack the rest of the NBA season.
Well, there's a lot going on in the NBA right now that could be up for change. I would say the way teams are tanking presents some great betting opportunities. And sure, some of these teams have won. That happens. Players want to win games.
The Raptors winning way too many games.
Yeah, there you go, right? They're a team that doesn't seem to care too much. But like the motivational angle of the 76ers losing just makes so much sense right now. And they have been. They'll probably win a couple games, but they have been. So there's some opportunities that show face based on certain circumstances, like maybe the Sixers want to prove to themselves that they can win a game, and they get out there and they get up quite a bit, and then you see whomever they're playing start storming back on them and can get some great opportunities. But separately of that, as we head into the NBA playoffs, we're in a situation with that league where when you look at the teams that are in a play-in game, there are some that may accept that, but no one truly wants it. That's number one. Number two is the teams that are below the play-in and slightly above the play-in that could be in a situation where they either find themselves getting into a play-in game or falling into a play-in game. So games like that where I guess there's a little bit of a playoff sort of aura or intensity surrounding them, there can be some great ways to profit from, because typically speaking, in those spots, we're going to see high defensive intensity that you don't necessarily see a lot in the regular season. Maybe you see it towards the end of the fourth quarters, but in a lot of these games, it's like shoot and score, and there's really no stopping anyone. Sometimes it can look a little bit like an all-star game or a Harlem Globetrotters game out there watching the NBA these days. So I try to look for those games as much as I possibly can, because that's a really good segue into the playoffs themselves. Because the playoffs, there's no motivational discrepancies. Everyone's there to win, and everyone's playing to win. So yeah, definitely looking forward to the latter, the tail end of the season, and obviously into the playoffs should be good. Yeah,
me too. It was a wonderful time of year last year, and I'm looking forward to hitting that this year. All right. Before we bring in our guest, just for all of you out there listening, I know we brought up the In Play Live Bracket Challenge last week. We entered in a promo bracket. We will take a look and see how that bracket's doing at the end of the show.
How is it doing? Okay, we'll wait. I had no idea.
We'll wait. I don't know either. We're gonna take a look together at the end of the show. And we'll have a look, see where it's at, who's doing what, who in the In Play Live community is looking really good, and perhaps who isn't, and a little refresher on the Pinnacle contest as well, and how the Behind the Lines promo bracket fits into it. All right, but we'll bring that up at the end of the show. For now, let's bring in our guest. Richard Munchkin is a professional gambler and is the author of Gambling Wizards, Conversations with the World's Greatest Gamblers. He has also worked in Hollywood as a writer, producer, director. Richard, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Good. I'm well, thanks.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. Really excited to have you. I got to ask you off the top here, after I just did that intro, what's a bigger risk, taking on Hollywood or taking on Vegas?
Oh, Hollywood for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, in professional gambling, you are in control of your future. You work as much as you want to work or as little, and it's all on you. Whereas in Hollywood, you're at the mercy of gatekeepers that allow you to work or don't. Or you could raise money and make your own films, and that is a much bigger risk than any gambling I've done.
Well, that's actually kind of what you set out to do, from what I understand. Is when you were much, much younger, you tried to go to Vegas, create a stack of cash that you would then use to make movies. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Originally, the idea was for me to be in movies.
Right.
I trained as an actor, and that was the plan. And I realized once I got there that acting in film and television was very different than theater, which was my background, and did not want to do it anymore. And fortunately was able to transition over into directing and writing and producing.
Right. And then how long did you do that for before you sort of returned to the gambling world?
About 10 or 15 years.
Wow. It's a good run.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, let's talk about the gambling side of things, though. I know it's like from poker to backgammon to blackjack, and many more table games in between. You've played probably just about every game imaginable for money. Where have you found your biggest edges?
There are some games that I'm trying to think about what I can talk about and what I can't.
Sure, yeah.
Because the biggest edges are things that people don't know about, which is why the edges are so huge.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think I'd have to leave it at that.
What are maybe some of the biggest ones that you can talk about?
Well,
Rich, we want like an old school Baccarat gambler's card edging story here. Like we want something that's come and gone.
Yeah,
we want something that can give us a taste of what some of your past maybe looked like. Where you crushed a casino or something similar.
Well, the thing is that the idea of come and gone is everything old is new again, and the thing that Phil Ivey did. That's 100 years old. That's, basically we had stopped doing it before he started doing it.
Makes sense.
And, but that was something with a very huge edge. The biggest edges are usually in a spot where the casino has made a big mistake, where they think that they've done something smart and they didn't really understand what they're doing. So just for example, I can talk about this because there was an article about it in the New York Times Magazine. Oklahoma, when they opened, was not able to deal craps using dice. So they all came up with these methods of cards. Right. So they would just in one of the most egregious examples, that, almost anybody can understand. And everybody was doing it differently, right? So in one particular place, they had a single deck that was just ace through 6. And they had, I believe, 8 copies of each. So 48 cards, right? So they would shuffle the deck and then they would turn over the cards, 2 cards. And that was your roll, right? 6-1.
Okay.
Right? Winner 7. Okay. And then they would put those cards aside and deal the next 2 cards.
Hold on. Before I get where you're going with they put those cards aside and then deal the next 2 cards, but isn't the probability of those cards being flipped the same as rolling like a 7? Is the 7 the same?
No,
odds?
they're not. They're not. And they are dealing farther into the deck. So let's say the next hand is 6-6, and they put those cards aside. There are now 3 6s gone from that deck, right? So the chances of rolling a 12 or an 11 are greatly reduced.
Pummel down, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just one example. But as I say, every casino came up with their own version of this. And, they just had no idea what they were doing.
I have to say, like the example that you just gave, it's really stupid.
Yes. Yes. So the thing is, people who work in casinos really do not understand the games. They do not. I'm telling you, like I was a dealer before I became a player, right? When I first got to Las Vegas, I didn't have a bankroll and I wanted to be a card counter. And I thought I'll get a job as a blackjack dealer. And that way I can practice counting cards 8 hours a day while I'm working, right? And there were guys, the people working in the pits who'd been doing it for 30 years did not have a clue. Like 1 out of 50 or something. When I first started dealing blackjack, I was dealing, and the boss, this was common. Every boss would say this when a player had a blackjack and the dealer had an ace up, and they would ask, should I take insurance? And the bosses would always say, it's the only sure bet in blackjack, right? You should always insure a blackjack. And you're giving up like 8% when you take insurance on a blackjack. Yes, you get paid even money, but you should be getting paid more than that, right? So I started asking the bosses, like, do you think that's right? Like that mathematically you make more money by taking insurance on a blackjack? And they all told me yes, for sure. One boss said to me, well, you're probably not, but you should do it anyway. And then I found one boss. This was at the Golden Nugget where I broke in. There was one boss who went, well, let's see, you have 110. That means there's 15 left in the deck, in a single deck. And, and he literally just did the math in his head and came up with, you're giving up about 8%. I was like, oh my God, there's like one guy here who understands math. But, the rest of them just had no clue. They would make fun of a player who bet in the field on the crap table, but thought it was fine to bet the hard 8. As I say, they just don't have a clue. And now it's even worse because now the bosses are pit clerks. And if you play a carnival game, one of these games like Ultimate Texas Hold'em or something like that, and you hit some hand like a full house, they have to come over to the table and read the layout to see what the payoffs are supposed to be. So, yeah, as I say, they don't understand the games that they're dealing.
You know what's interesting about what you just said? There's like a human psychology experiment where you give someone $500 with a 1 in 10 probability of it becoming $10,000, or you just give them $9,500 and you have to pick which of the two you're going to take. And of course, everyone takes the $9,500. But then you take the inverse of the situation where it would be a loss. So you either stand to potentially lose 10,000 or you just lose 500 and you get to keep 9,500. Everyone takes the 9,500 in both circumstances, despite and it's the exact same question, just right.
Yes.
But everyone takes the $9,500 in both circumstances, and they're comfortable with the $500 loss instead of the $9,500 loss in the loss side of it, and they take the $9,500 instead of the more statistically probable outcome of the risk associated with the 10x in a 20x scenario. It's really interesting.
So there's a casino consultant, a guy named Bill Zender, and he has been a casino manager. He started as a dealer. He worked for the Gaming Control Board in Nevada. Sharp guy, really understands things. So he's a consultant to the casinos. Now, the casinos forever have tracked how they are doing by what they call the casino hold. And the hold is not the edge on the game. The hold is for every dollar that went down into the box on the table, how much of that did they keep? Okay. And in the old days, a blackjack game would hold 12 or 13% of the money that people used to buy in. Anyway, so he's consulting at this place, and he's sitting with the table games manager and the casino manager. And he said to them, would you rather hold 10% of $2 million or 15% of, let me think. So 15% of, hold on. Let me
10% of 2 million. We got 200,000 on that side.
Yeah.
And 15%
or 15% of $1 million.
Okay. 150,000. Right.
Right. And he said, and the table games manager said, absolutely 15% of $1 million. And he goes, don't you understand that that's $500,000 less in profit? And the table games manager said, oh, I understand that completely. But if I only hold 10%, he is going to be all over my ass. And the casino manager then said, oh, that's right. Right. Like all they care about is the number, not the profit.
Not the profit.
Right.
Because
so, you know what, that's like teaching your staff at McDonald's not to upsell the fries and the Coke because there's a higher margin on the hamburger, but the fries and the Coke are like, it's like if you buy the fries and the Coke off the menu, it might cost you $8 independently, right? But if you add them onto your drink, it might only cost you $3. And of course, the reason why the fast food joints upsell you into these products is because they've already hit you for the high margin, and now we just tack on a little extra profit, right? To get more dollars through the door. The net profit may have gone down on those particular items, but the profit percentage may have gone down on those particular items, but the overall profit, it's still profitable. That's like saying as a sports bettor, I love this EV on this 15% ROI opportunity that's coming down the pipeline. But because of that, I'm going to pass on this one that's 6% expected value.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you want both.
Right.
They're both profitable. If you have to choose between the two, of course, you're going to pick the one that has the higher ROI.
Depending on how much you're allowed to bet on each one.
Well said. Well said. Yes. All other things constant. Yeah. Anyways, can we go back to that Baccarat thing? Like you just Baccarat, I never know how to pronounce it. I don't think I've ever played a hand of it. You said by the time Phil Ivey had done it, we had stopped. So you are saying you were directly involved with like card edging in Baccarat.
Not in Baccarat, other games.
Okay. Right. So when that happened, was it standard practice for that type of deck to be used at casinos and they just didn't know?
Yeah, they had no clue.
They had no clue. Unbelievable.
We never got picked off by a casino.
Wow.
They never understood, and we never lost.
Wow. So they couldn't figure out why you were winning. Whereas like the Oklahoma thing is like, hey guys, like that's like driving down the wrong side of the road. Like something's wrong here.
No, in Oklahoma, in that single deck game, eventually they started dealing less cards out of the deck. And then eventually they just changed to a whole different card system, which was also beatable,
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So you don't live in Oklahoma, but you traveled for this to be a part of the action?
What about Oklahoma? I'm sorry.
You don't live there, but you traveled there to be a part of the action?
I've traveled all over the world.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. You've traveled like everywhere to exploit casinos, right? Like with the sole objective of targeting not even a casino, but targeting a game at a particular casino, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
My team and I had an apartment in Korea for 3.5 years. We were flying back and forth to Korea, constantly playing there in the 80s. I mean, yeah, I've played all over.
How do you learn that there is something to exploit?
I mean, some of it. One of the best things about gambling is when you're sitting in a room with a bunch of other sharp people, just relaxing and talking about games. And somebody says something about, what if we tried this? Or somebody says, I tried this, but I couldn't get it to work. And suddenly people are collaborating and you come up with ideas. And not all of them work, but when they do, it's like magic sometimes. And just as in sports betting, one of the most important things is your network of people, right? I know nothing about sports, and I'm not a quant, so I can't build a model. But I have a large network of people that I've known for decades. And, this guy has a way to beat hockey and this guy has a way to beat tennis. And, so you learn from your partners.
You weren't betting on sports until recently, as I mentioned. What got you into betting on sports and what are you looking at in the sports world now?
I had retired. I've retired, 6 or 8 times. It's easy. I've played with one particular partner for like 40 years. And he called me about 1.5 years ago and he was like, hey, we gotta get into this sports, and this is something I had always avoided just because I was never into sports. And I thought that you had to know something about sports to be able to beat it. And, he said there, it's booming and there's a lot of money to be made and we should get into this. And so I said, okay. And I thought, it'll be fun because I'll be learning something new. And, so he kind of dragged me into it. And that's how it all started.
Right. Okay. So you had a longtime partner. He brought you into it. And how are you guys finding it? Is there any sports specifically that you're looking at? Are you looking at everything? What are you, do you have something that's a favorite that you just are passionate about?
No, I'm passionate about whatever has the biggest edge.
Love it.
But we are not originators. We are movers.
Okay.
So we move for other people.
Gotcha.
And, and I'll tell you, it's a big change because in sports, you really never know what your edge is. And you can have an edge at something that's good for a season and then you come back the next season and it's not there anymore.
Oh yeah.
So it's difficult. It's a difficult transition to kind of deal with all that stuff. But I'll tell you what I don't like is I don't like people who they originate something and they send it out to a lot of different people, and if you don't bet it within 1 minute, it's gone. And if you do bet it, you're probably going to lose your account. So, what I like are things where you can take your time and get the money in slowly and try to maintain your accounts and things.
There's so much of that out there, right? These tout services, they put out a pick, and this is really sort of pregame focused. They put out a pick to thousands of subscribers, and it's always at one specific book. It has to be bet at either FanDuel or DraftKings, right? And then, you got 1,000 people rushing to that book to go bet a line, and either the line is hammered into oblivion by the time you get there, right? Or, if you do get the good line, chances are you're getting grouped in with a whole bunch of other people, and like you said, you're going to get cooked real fast.
Yep.
It's kind of a big issue out there. Okay, I'd be remiss to not bring up your book in this interview because you talked to some big time sports bettors for this, not just sports bettors but gamblers. The Gambling Wizard is the name of the book. You talked to Billy Walters, Doyle Brunson, Alan Woods. Talk to us about going through the process of researching and writing that book.
Alan Woods was actually the person that made me my transition from amateur learning low stakes blackjack player to professional.
Okay.
So what happened was I was on a flight to Hong Kong, and I was reading a book called Market Wizards. And it was interviews with commodities and futures traders. And it's a very famous business book, very well-known book. And there was a sequel to it. And I read this book and I'm thinking, man, gamblers are way more interesting than these people are. And so when I got to Hong Kong, I went to a friend of mine who is one of the most successful gamblers in history and invented using computerized trading for horse racing. And his name is Bill Benter. And I went to Bill and I said, hey, would you do an interview? I got an idea to do this book called Gambling Wizards. And Bill says, I don't want the notoriety, but Alan will do it. Because Bill and Alan had been partners in the horse racing operation and they had split up. And Bill is American and Alan was Australian. And so Bill didn't want the heat, and so he said, Alan will do it. So I called Alan. I was like, hey, will you do this? And he said, oh, yeah, sure. And so I bought a tape recorder and started recording him while I was there in Hong Kong. And that's how it started. And I realized from the beginning that I wanted to cover different areas of professional gambling. So, so I knew I wanted sports betting. So I was able to get Billy Walters, which at that time, Billy Walters did not talk to anybody. And so I was very lucky to get him to agree to do the book. Stan Thompson, I sort of had connections to through backgammon. Although with Stan Thompson, he's one of the founders of Pinnacle. And we unfortunately weren't able to talk about Pinnacle because, he didn't want the heat, because he lived in the U.S. And so we were only talking about his betting career and stuff. So anyway, most of the people in the book I knew personally, so it was easy to get them. And that's kind of how it came about.
First, shout out Stan Thompson and Pinnacle, sponsor of our show. Thanks for giving us that opportunity. But, what did you learn along the way while you were doing this? Like, what are some of the important lessons or insights you gained from writing the book?
As I've mentioned, that your network is everything. And the two most important things that you can have as a bettor are a network and a reputation. I can't tell you how stupid the people who have stolen money from me would have made so much more money if they had been honest. It's just crazy. But, it's a very small community. And once you get a reputation as not knowing how to count the money right, you're cooked.
Who stole from you and how much?
Oh, over the years, I'd love to have half the money back. I'd be really well off if I had half the money back that's been stolen from me. Here's just one example, right? We had so we would use what are called big players. I guess in the sports betting world, they're whales that you have bet for you, right? So we use them in the casinos. And some of the best people to have are Asians who have a foreign passport. So we tended to use a lot of Japanese for our big players. Anyway, so we were up in Lake Tahoe, and we are in a room at Caesars, and we're going to be playing a game next door at Harrah's. And so the big player, a Japanese guy, we give him $20,000. And we tell him, okay, I'm going to be on this table over at Harrah's. Come over in about 15 minutes, find my table, sit at that table. So we go, we set up, and the guy never shows up. And we're like, what happened to him? And we go and we check the room, and he's not there. And, I think we called the hospital to see if, he had a heart attack or something. The guy had taken the $20,000 and gone to the airport and just flown home. But usually they try to be a little subtle, but you're always going to get caught. Yeah. It's going to happen. And as I say, that guy would have made so much more money if he had just been honest.
And if he had just, stuck with you guys and perhaps built a network of his own and created a relationship with you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not to mention, though, when you're in this arena, that guy also might just be looking over his shoulder a lot, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'm doing is accusing anyone of being someone that could get violent. But if I stole $20,000 from someone, I would kind of be like, geez, is that guy going to show up at my doorstep one day?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big time negative EV move, not from just the standpoint of the money you could have won by sticking with this group, but the constant concern and worry that you're going to have to live with. I mean, it's just what's the point? And you could, like you said, you could have made a lot more money. Okay, what advice would you give to people who are just kind of entering the space? You've spent your entire career now, kind of engaging and finding edges, whether it's a casino floor or, now sports books online. You kind of have seen it all from that perspective. What advice would you give to people out there who are just kind of entering the space now about what it takes to be successful?
Well, first of all, not everybody is cut out for it, because you have to be emotionally able to handle the swings, because no matter what you're in, you're going to have variance, right? And some people are just not cut out for it. So that's the first thing, is figure out if you're okay with that. And then, the most important thing to do is get into the community of whatever it is you're trying to do, right? So if you're getting into sports, there are a number of Discord channels, and you have to take your time, because a big majority of the people that you're going to run into don't know what they're doing, right? Or will act like they know a lot about what they're doing. So you just have to kind of take your time and figure out, oh, this guy's sharp and this guy's not. And so get into the community and start making friends, whether it's, a lot of people are entering the gambling space now, playing slot machines professionally, because it's very low hanging fruit. You don't, somebody just tells you, oh, play this machine when this number is at 35. That's all you need to know. But you need to know people who are going to tell you play this machine when the number's 35, right? So, and the way you learn that is either you're very good at math, or you get into the community and start talking to people. So, communities on Discord, on Twitter, So that's, and then the other thing I would say is read every book you can find. People don't seem to want to read these days, but I would say read every book you can find.
I love the slot machine analogy there, because you just made it sound so simple. Play this machine when it's at 35. Well, that ignores a lot of things. You got to find the machine. You got to get to where that machine is. You got to have money to play. You got to make sure that you're the first person on the machine, provided it's in that situation. How many other people are tracking that same machine, right? Like, it can always be a little bit trickier than it sounds. What do you do when you're in for X amount and it hasn't the jackpot or the payout hasn't hit yet, when you had fully expected it to already, right?
Yeah. Same thing with sports, right? They tell you, oh, well, you can just go arbitrage, right? Just go wait till the line is, minus 135 plus 137, and bet both sides. And, but as you say, things are always a little more complicated than. Yeah,
they don't tell you that, oh, that could cook your account real fast, and then you're going to have to go searching for more outs.
They don't train you when you're doing it live that all of a sudden a goal got scored when one side got spun in and you're stuck.
Yeah.
For that 2 cent arb you have to make up 50 times because you just took a full unit loss on the one side you didn't spin in, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Richard, what's next for you? What are you going to be up to over the coming months and years? What sort of, what kind of plan do you have? I know you're focused on sports betting with your partner there. Is that kind of it for now? What are you working on next?
Actually, less gambling and more sort of traveling, and I'd also like to maybe do some shows here in Las Vegas. Like I go audition for plays now and then when there's a role that I think I'd be right for. So, I'd like to do some more of that.
Are you a triple threat actor, or is it?
No, I can't sing or dance.
I was really hoping for a show tune here.
Pace wanted a song and dance.
That's really.
But I can't write and direct, so I'm a triple threat that way.
That's a really valuable triple threat. But I was going to say, if you do land something, we'll come see you for sure, because we frequent Vegas, obviously, but I don't think we frequent it with an edge in mind. It's the edge is leisure for us when it comes to Vegas.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, but I mean, we do a lot of live betting, and I mean, there's certainly some angles on some of those kiosks from the standpoint of it being somewhat anonymous, but getting down can be really tricky.
Are tough. Yeah.
Getting down can be really tricky.
They finally approved Canby for Nevada, but they're not here yet. But they're coming.
Wow!
So if you play live on Canby, it's kind of like maybe 1 hour to 1 day of just printing money.
Yeah,
and then the well dries up pretty quickly. I remember. So you talk about your baccarat story there. I remember getting down $10,000 on Canby on 4th and 6 from their own 44. When the ball was already in the air, thinking to myself, well, they're never going to pay this. And that quickly turned into, and I mean, that's just like an egregious example of a bad line, but they used to have stuff live, like teams to get a first down in the NFL at like plus 300 would just be posted because they were an 8-point underdog. And it's like, they don't just go 3 and out all game. Like, we would just crush their lines. But it quickly turned into they did I guess sharpen up a bit. I'd say they're as soft as it probably gets in the industry. But the real downfall with them became how they, I guess, number one, limited their players, but secondly was just if you had an account where it had been well established, primed up, buttered, whatever you want to call it. It was really too bad. They'd clip you almost instantly for betting on things that didn't have an edge. So they got to the point where I think a lot of sports books have actually done this. They've gotten too defensive, and they're lumping in players that they actually shouldn't be clipping because they're so afraid of the bottom line that they're missing constantly. And that
it
especially
happens in
goes
casinos all the time too. They just
right?
they
And
throw out players who are not winning players, but the guy maybe got lucky, or and yeah.
yeah. So with Canby specifically, hopefully Nevada is a big freaking deal for them. So they'll be competitive when they enter. And by competitive, I mean give players a decent leash. I don't know that there's a better sports book for live betting that from like a beatability standpoint. They're just as soft as it gets. It's crazy. So much so that we almost laugh when a line pops up now. We'll all laugh on our live streams and like kind of have a chuckle and say, well, if you got it, guys, good luck with you. Have fun making your $100 today. And it is, yeah, they've changed a lot. But that'll be great for you. Hopefully, Rich, that'll be a great out.
So you're, let me ask you, you're in play. Are you, any particular sports that you really focus on?
Shane, why don't you answer that? Because Shane's background's kind of cool. He became a member of In Play Live and just kind of worked his way up as a bettor who had a few bucks to a lot of money now.
Yeah. To answer the question there, we focus on a lot of stuff at In Play Live. A lot of the main sports, basketball, big time right now. College hoops is a main focus right now, and we've got some great live strategies for college hoops. Puck. Hockey, lots of football, of course, both college football and NFL, and NBA tend to focus a little more NBA late season, the community as a whole, anyway. Through the summer months, CFL. So you might not be too familiar with it, but
well, I'm sure you got a lot of money down on that.
Well, it's hard to get a lot of money down necessarily on the CFL. It's a bit tricky in that sense, but we've done really well with CFL, and so that'll kick off in May, and that's a great sort of way to kind of cruise through the summer. And of course, we do some baseball. One of the big popular markets out there, of course, that everybody kind of knows about, but perhaps isn't necessarily exploiting the way they should be, is the Nerfy market. So we had some pretty significant success with that last season. I know it's kind of what we like most about that too is that that market in particular is a great one because we've been able to find some edges on it, but I think the sports books tend to look at it as a square market. And so it kind of allows you to make a little bit of money through the summer while, in kind of the general off season, so to speak.
I don't even know what that is. What is
Nerfy? So yes, run first inning or no run first inning. Okay. It's something that's kind of, it's out there and a lot of people are kind of looking at it and tackling it, which is kind of great because it's sort of one of these markets that, you might consider like a micro market, that would typically get you cooked at a sports book pretty quickly if you were beating it on a regular basis. But because of the interest in it, I think it's viewed more as a square market. And so it kind of helps with, keeping accounts alive a little bit longer and that kind of thing. But just to answer your question in short, I think football's always been the biggest thing within the In Play Live community. Both college football and NFL sort of founded on the backs of football. And then, great strategies developed for hockey and basketball as well. So those are kind of the bread and butter, I would say. Yeah. Why, you interested? You want to learn to bet live with us?
I am interested. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, what I should say is my partner, it's very hard for me to bet live because I'm in Nevada.
Oh, that's very tough.
And we don't have Canby yet.
Yeah.
But my partner is in Colorado.
Oh.
And spends a lot of time at kiosks.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, he'd be very interested in that.
Well,
yeah.
We would love to have him, come explore the community and join us and get to know us, and we can get to know him and, grow our networks together.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. Well,
that sounds great.
Richard, how can people connect with you if they want to reach out? Is there a way that they can chat with you or pick your brain a little bit?
The easiest is probably Twitter. I'm on Twitter as RWM21. That's probably the easiest.
Okay, so they can hit you up there, and you do a podcast as well.
I do too, but they are so the main podcast is called Gambling with an Edge. We did it for 12 years 52 weeks a year. And it got to be just way too much of a grind because it was 1 hour every week, finding guests, anyway. So we're still doing an occasional episode when we run into somebody and the spirit moves us. We'll do an episode of Gambling with an Edge. And we have over 600 episodes if people want to go explore. And we have talked about beating every game you can possibly imagine, including the lottery.
Wow.
We've had more than one guest who beat the lottery. And then my other podcast is also a very occasional thing, and it's called Life is a Gamble. And that's a podcast where I can talk about things that are not just gambling related, more about sort of the gambles you take in your life. So it's mainly people with interesting stories that, that I talk to.
Love that idea. And Gambling with an Edge is fascinating too for any game you're looking at. I've checked out a few episodes and pretty cool stuff over there. Well, Richard, it's been great having you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us, and good luck with all of your sports betting.
Thank you. Thank you much.
All right, that was Richard Munchkin. Pace, I think we only were able to get a little fraction of his lifetime story in gambling and what he's doing now in sports betting. For anybody out there who wants to learn more about him, go check him out, look him up, check out his book. You can tell that this is a guy who's got a lot of wisdom to share. Okay. Let's bring everybody up to speed back on the March Madness side of things and the In Play Live bracket. I am going to pull it up right now, and we can take a look here to see how the Behind the Lines promo bracket is doing. For everybody out there who doesn't remember what we did here is on last week's episode, we entered a bracket, a promo bracket into the In Play Live bracket challenge. And if this bracket wins, the money would then go into the Pinnacle contest that we have been running for the last, basically this entire year so far. And that involves $1,000 getting deposited into one of your Pinnacle accounts. For all of you out there listening, all you have to do is make a $10 wager, send it to Mark Rajman, and you would be entered into the Pinnacle contest that will see one lucky person get $1,000 deposited into their account every quarter throughout this year. The first quarter of the year is coming to an end in just about a week or so. So that money will be going out. We'll be giving that away here on the show. I'm really looking forward to giving somebody at least $1,000. But if this Behind the Lines promo bracket wins, that money will be getting increased pretty significantly. I think we got about close to $5,000 in this prize pool. Pace, something like that.
I have no idea. I think maybe closer to 4,000. And by the way, You were talking about last year. I think you're referencing Survivor Pool, because I checked the pool last year. It's like $2,100.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
maybe it was Survivor that
bigger.
I had.
It's bigger this year, and I'm seeing Hiddle at the top there, and
Hiddle's at the top.
Colorado State. What a gut punch! Where Maryland, who got buzzer beatered 4 games in a row, got buzzer beatered again by Colorado State, and then returned the favor there.
Yeah,
crazy. Okay, Shane, how's the Behind the Lines bracket doing? Because I don't see you in the top there.
No, we're definitely not at the top. You're not up here either. I'm not in this top ranking here. We've got a few people. Jay Morey in second, Sid over there in third. A couple entries from Taco doing well. We're at 10th. Okay, we're in the top 10. Behind the Lines promo in the top 10. Maybe some life. Although
and Zaga's bounced. Okay, the bonus team is gone.
Bonus team's out. So I think that's gonna cause some problems for us. And knowing that it's Florida Duke, we've got our Final Four. Maybe if we get the full Final Four, we might be able to pull it out. I don't know. It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be close. Where am I? Let's see. Oh, I'm down here in 16th. Okay. Yeah.
You're dead.
I'm dead. I had Gonzaga in the Final Four. That's out. I'm definitely going to lose to the Behind the Lines promo bracket anyway because Florida Duke there. So I think I'm dead. I'm out. And Pace, I'm looking for you. Pace, I'm still.
I'll be at the very bottom.
Pace.
And by the way,
there
remember
you
how
are,
I
30
made fun of
seconds.
myself?
Oh, buddy.
you remember how I made fun of myself, Shane, about my bracket last year? I did an all SEC bracket.
That's right.
Why didn't I repeat?
Yeah.
Why didn't I repeat? I know Texas A&M lost to Michigan, but I'm trying to think. Ole Miss thumped Iowa State. Iowa State had a lot of hype. I should have kept the all SEC thing going.
You
Arkansas
probably should have. Yeah, Arkansas going through bad. They might be the Cinderella team that everybody starts to cheer for.
Starkansas.
Yeah, pretty special run that we could see from them. Yeah, well, this is where we're at. Yeah, Pace. It's probably because last year burned you so bad that you didn't bother going that route.
Big time. Yeah. I was like, this SEC conference is overrated, and that is not the case. They look unbelievable out there, no matter who they seem to be playing against. And now, obviously, a lot of these Titan SEC teams are going to be locking in on the Sweet 16 against each other. So I think is it Kentucky, Tennessee? My God, it's going to be good.
That should be great. Yeah, looking forward to that. A couple of other great matchups, and I love the way Florida's playing. I have to say, I picked them to win. I still think that they're going to win, although Duke does look fantastic. I mean, man, they look strong.
Yeah,
which we
all the one seeds are still sitting there, right? So it's going to be an exciting Sweet 16. And one of the big trends this time of year is the $100 bet on every underdog. I have not seen how that is done, but I just have to make the assumption that underdog betting this year has gone really poorly. Underdog, March Madness. I'm going to search that, Shane, while you but you know what I'm talking about, right?
I don't know the trend. I mean, I know that in the past people talk about, bet every underdog and you'll come out ahead because you get these huge plus odds and blah blah blah. I've seen that in the past. I haven't been following it so much this year online. I haven't seen a lot of it, to be honest with you. I kind of feel like perhaps a lot, or maybe it's just the people I'm following on social media, but I'm starting to think that people are getting a little bit wiser out there, and that shows like this and others are helping with that. But I think generally, people who are betting consistently on a regular basis are getting a little bit sharper out there, which is nice to see. But so with that being said, I haven't seen it, so I don't know. Have people been
it's
on
this
trend?
Big trend? It's this big trend. It's been around for years, and it's really picked up steam. And essentially, it's a very recreational approach, but at the same time, when it's returned positive results with teams like St. Peter's, and McNeese was the hopeful this year, which obviously didn't last too long. You'll track 10 plus unit gains at the end of the tournament by just taking every underdog blind. They are getting crushed.
I was going to say that can't be going well.
They are getting absolutely crushed. Okay, you ready for this? 52 total bets, 12 wins, 40 losses. If you are a $100 bettor, you've staked $5,200 and lost 24.13 units.
Ooh, so lost, like we're just calling $100 a unit, so they've lost 24 units?
$2,413. It is the single worst year on record of favorites taking care of the dogs. Now, I don't think you can get that back. If you stick to your guns on this year, I don't think that you can get that back.
Oh, just to continue betting dogs here through the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 and through the rest of the tournament?
The people that commit to doing it, I'm sure a ton of people have stopped, but I don't think you can get that money back.
I don't think so either. I think that money's lost. And I think if you chase that or you keep going, you're probably just going to lose more. Not only will you not get it back, you probably will lose more.
So that's the price of like a couple of full years subscription to In Play Live, the people that are out there doing this. And I'm not trying to sell our product, but what an absolute dumpster fire versus investing and learning how to bet properly. That is. I'm shocked. I knew it was bad. I didn't think it was that bad.
God, I thought, like I said, maybe it's the people I'm following on social media. I'm not seeing a ton of that kind of stuff, but obviously it exists. It's out there, and
these aren't people I'm following, Shane. This is like a big trend this time of year. Major accounts like BR Betting or Bleacher Report or whatever, they all track all this, and they have guys doing it, Barstool, etc. There, So, anyways, it's been a bad year for them.
That's terrible, and you're not going to get that back. Very unlikely. I would abandon that now, and you could take that money and invest it in learning how to actually make money off of betting on sports. Lots of positive EV investments out there you could make with that money. All right. Well, it was a fun weekend of March Madness. I look forward to the next rounds of the tournament, and we'll keep an eye on that bracket. And of course, we are giving away minimum $1,000 USD. Hopefully, the Behind the Lines promo can knock off Hiddle. I don't know if it can do that. It's going to be tough, but that would be awesome, and we would be able to add a lot more money to that pool. But right now, $1,000 USD getting given out in just over a week from now, right, Pace? We're
going to do it on the show next week. At this time, at the end of the episode, we'll be announcing who won the $1,000 USD, and then we'll make sure that they get those funds added to their account. So really exciting stuff.
And that means there is still time to get in. All you got to do is go make a $10 wager at Pinnacle. If you haven't signed up, pinnacle.com/inplaylive. That's how you sign up. Make your $10 bet, and you could have the $1,000 USD put into your account. All you got to do is send that $10 wager over to Raj, and you're entered in. Pretty simple stuff. All right, guys. Looking forward to giving away that $1,000 USD next week. All right, Pace. Till then, and to everybody out there betting on sports, betting on March Madness, whatever you're betting on, till next week, keep beating those books.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join In Play Live, use promo code Behind the Lines.